You're listening to PlayStation Unchained.
PlayStation Universe, PlayStation fans, PlayStation Nation, the world over. Holy crap. Sony
fans of games
E3 20. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. Sony E3 2015. What a night. I mean, it defies words. It defies everything that we just spent, we just spent all day organizing these videos, organizing our impressions of things, videos, and by video I mean audio because of the nature of recording at E3, but we thought, yeah, awesome, well, we'll go see Sony's conference, we'll have impressions to wrap up the event when we get back, and I mean, we've just been in this haze, this aura of divine presence that Sony's E3 show really brought.
The Holy Trinity.
But I mean, yeah, on a scale of 0 to 10, where would you guys place this one?
10.
Easily.
Actually,
11.
I mean, maybe
11 out of 10.
11.
It's hard, yeah.
Maybe it's easier to simply ask, was this the best ever?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I think any one of those three, like, they could have made the show. Could have made the show. One of them could have.
Yeah.
When you said the big three, of course, the people haven't been listening to the way we've
The
been
Last
talking
Guardian,
about, so.
Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Shenmue III. All in the space of 25 minutes, having waited 15 years. It takes your breath away. It's actually incredible.
It does take your breath away, and this is your first show, right? So you had that
Yeah.
palpable energy of like
My first PlayStation E3 conference.
It was
Which was hilarious because I leaned over to you and I said, "What a show to be your first one!" And then you said you're waiting for Shenmue 3, and then there it was.
They were listening.
and to say nothing of Adam's reaction, Ernest's build up throughout. With Last Guardian, we were all high fiving, we were back clapping. The whole arena was just on fire with just the Last Guardian. We immediately move into Horizon. We'll get to Horizon in a second, but we just talked about that Holy Trinity. Oh my God! We move into Final Fantasy VII Remake. Everyone thinks they knows what it is, suspects they knows what it is. It gets a little bit more confirmed with each new thing that we see, and then finally an eruption in the arena. And then I mean, okay, so I don't want to say I was at the point of tears with FF7, but I was I was emotional. Like I was definitely.
I was already a little bit teary at Last Guardian. I was already.
If anything, because of how beautiful that relationship is and how gorgeous.
Right.
It's
The culmination of so many emotions of the past 6
it's
years.
just it's so pent up that we've been waiting forever.
It's a
and
lot.
ever.
Here it
Every
is.
year we say it's going to show up and it doesn't. It's
The
like
haters hates. We go home. It's like,
just
oh, I
like-
told you. It was
David
gonna
haters
show up.
hate.
It's just like,
The Southern
you're
haters.
we're just like kids with a deadbeat dad, and we're just waiting for him to show up. And he finally does, and he says he's staying, and that he's gonna remarry mom, and we're gonna spend Christmas together. This is too much.
Nothing is impossible.
Nothing is impossible.
It was from my first conference, it was the most surreal moment. There was literal tears. People were embracing, high-fiving, dancing around. It was
Standing over.
surreal.
It was a lot. It was a lot like that riot in the beginning of The Matrix Reloaded. Not the riot, the big party in the cave.
Oh yeah.
Cave
rave.
Cave
rave.
Yes, exactly.
Cave
It was cave rave in the Memorial Sports Arena.
Yeah.
No, yeah, you're right when you say that. The Last Guardian, that buildup of emotions from just the years of silence, the years of doubting, to actually see it in motion and to see that it was still hitting that original, as best as we can tell, that original vision. It was almost like a signal of hope, and that's a really lofty thing to say, but it's one of those things that really taps into this very basic human emotion that says hope is a thing that really, really can.
After all the struggle, it's the same game. It's the same core principles.
And the big thing is that Fumito Ueda is still directing and behind it, and
there was
he's
so much
committed
speculation about that.
Oh yeah, because there's been such a roller coaster on what his studio and whether or not he was still going to be a major part of that game.
And I think he's going to be a major part. I mean, it sounds like the team's in great health. They did say, and I think it was maybe Ueda quoted or another person that said we look forward to bringing fans The Last Guardian and beyond. Beyond, like Team Ico, Japan studio, is sticking together for for visions that will continue. And man,
I'm glad they could reconcile whatever was.
Yeah.
was
and
happening
now that
there.
raises the big question of like what happened? Like, what was the story? What the hell made it take this long?
Yeah, I wonder if it was just maybe a little arrogance on Sony's parts.
I hope for a post-launch book.
Yeah,
Oh,
Tell-all.
absolutely.
Right,
Just like
absolutely.
Kojima's tell-all. We
yeah.
need...
Just
HarperCollins has to get like a two-year book deal with Kojima at least.
Yeah.
And maybe
But I mean, we've seen that shift from PS3 generation to PS4, where Sony is being more open. They're being a lot more understanding with developers and really, really catering to the needs of developers, and that way making PS4 such a great system.
And more
for a lot of
honest with
developers.
fans too. I mean,
Exactly,
that fits
yeah.
right in that
Yeah.
parallel
they
thing.
strolled into like when PS3 was launching as they were the best and stuff, and
Yeah.
we know better type thing, and it came back to bite
PS2
them
is
in
the
the
best
ass.
console ever.
You know, I
You're
tweeted.
gonna want to work more to get the PS3 when it comes out.
Yeah,
so it was
yeah.
just-
Next
needed
gen
the
starts when
hubris
we
was just
say.
insane.
they
Yeah.
needed that kick up the ass, and now
It's funny. I tweeted earlier today. After Microsoft had comparably a really good showing,
Yeah.
I said, for Sony, even though they've been killing it lately, nothing is guaranteed. They have to earn every inch. Like, they can't let that humility, that game centric focus, they can't let that slide. And now, having said that, and then having seen the conference itself, I'm like, what did I ever have to worry about?
Yeah.
This was absolutely phenomenal. Blew me away, The Last Guardian. I think so. Like, do we want more like Shadow of the Colossus eco? Because it looks like seriously what we're getting here with The Last Guardian.
I'm sensing more eco with it, to be honest.
Not
Yeah,
Shadow of the
same.
Colossus.
Sure.
Although we don't know
I do
yet.
see
It
some.
could
We have no
both.
idea.
Because
Six
literally
years,
all we
six
said, we talked about before, to keep in mind, while as impactful that trailer was, we literally just saw a corner
Yep.
Right.
of a tiny little region. We
Right.
saw absolutely nothing of that world.
And
But it seemed
But-
you
but
got
it was
so
more-
invested. It was about the relationship,
Right, it was
between
about
two.
the relationship.
But you got so invested with it, and they had a little kind of hints into different things that led to a lot of questions about
Right.
like the little kind of that eye that was there on the rolling cart, and
Yeah.
it changed. It freaked out the Guardian, as I'm assuming is
Yeah.
what it is.
That actually reminded me.
but-
That's one of the things that reminded me of Shadow of the Colossus in a way, because certain fights from that game, you would see the Colossi react to the environment in ways that made them seem like almost, obviously they're alive, but almost like creatures of the world, right? There was they occasionally, very occasionally, they do get scared by things like when you're holding a torch or when you're doing something very specific. There is suddenly
Yeah.
like this humanizing moment when.
But it
Right.
seemed
It
to be.
breaks your
It
illusion.
wasn't just fear for that though, which was strange. It was more kind of like demonizing it, because you saw its eyes become this
Yeah, there was.
unsettling red,
Mhm.
and it was just kind of, especially with being a small boy, having this relationship with this seemingly docile,
Yeah,
kind of
right,
large creature that just wants company. But you also can tell that it's a very adolescent creature of whatever it is. So
So you
who
want-
knows what it could become or what
Yeah,
it's supposed to be.
For me, I'm leaning more towards
Very interesting.
it being more like eco because it seems like it's about a journey and these
And
two
even
beings
even
in the
the area
relationship.
we did see was small, but it's that kind
Yeah.
of grand, huge scale kind
Yeah.
of
And
building
they're
where
just kind of going from point A to point B, rather than the Shadow Colossus, which had like this grand,
Yeah.
objective with combat involved, and with these bosses.
symphonic music playing.
Right,
proper-
right.
And at this
into
point,
it.
it's like I don't even know if I would actually ask them to show me anything more of the narrative
Yeah,
of the story.
Well,
It's
they
like-
didn't
it's like
need
you
to.
said-
And there,
right,
and there
exactly.
definitely
But it's
could be
just-
more
yeah,
to
that's
it.
what the focus
we don't
was
know
different.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to be a Debbie Downer though, but does it look all that different? Do you think? We obviously don't know what has happened in the past 6 years, but to me, given what it looks like currently, I think there literally was a hiatus where the game probably was not worked on for quite a
Oh,
while.
They had to.
for sure.
Yeah.
They were never like always kind of slightly plugging away or trying to change things. It literally looks like the game was stopped for a significant
Yeah.
amount of time.
It does
and has
look.
carried on since.
It does look sharper because I have gone back and looked at like some of the screenshots.
Well, this is strange. The
Video
screenshots looked sharper than the trailer.
There was some
It
little
was
parts
strange.
of the trailer
It
that
was
were a
a little-
little.
The
I was,
ones-
I was
just-
talking about like the old PS3 screenshots.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm seeing the
Right.
screenshots that were for the new ones now.
Okay, I haven't
They
seen
look
those.
sharp. I just looked at them a little while ago. They look sharper than the trailer that we just saw, which looked much closer to what Adam was saying was
Okay.
the original trailer. To me, anyway, it was just kind of odd. But that's also part of the style for it too.
And it's
Yeah.
like, is it
The environment
is it
was
the-
really
Is
good.
it the level they showed that maybe had different kinds of textures? Was it the kind of
The way-
fog?
yeah.
in the
Yeah,
air?
well, part of
could
it
have
too
been-
is that the environment is done very rendered very differently from the Guardian, which is rendered very differently from the Boy.
Yeah, because
So
when
it's
the
just
boy
kind of
climbs, you have that kind of
interesting.
dynamic feathers and stuff. There's
Yeah.
always going to be some
And
close
he's
Those dynamic feathers, man.
Yeah.
Those jitterbug feathers just all over the place.
Yeah.
The slightest gust of wind sends,
Yeah.
sends,
It's
sends
like-
them
yeah.
rippling. It was a cool thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what signified when that trailer started that this
Yep.
is the last Guardian, was seeing that feather float into the water. Camera pans up.
Oh my goodness, the
They're
feather.
beautiful.
It's a fantastic way to start.
Yeah.
But like, so are we going to be talking about the holy trinity of E3 2015 in reverent tones for just years?
Oh,
to
for
come?
sure.
I mean,
I'm going to eulogize till I probably die.
to be
That is the Holy Trinity to me. Yes.
I mean,
Oh,
so we don't know. I mean, we haven't. This is so recent, so soon after getting home from the conference that we haven't actually seen what people saw on the stream. But for us on the show floor, it was the live stream moving across the thing. I mean, it was the iconic green streams of aether,
Yeah.
green streams of energy that really clued us into the fact that this could really happen.
Right.
This could.
And I'm sure
this
in-
could truly
in
be
everyone's
the time.
in the back of everyone's mind, it was like, "Oh man, please don't let this be."
That's what
the
they're
PC
actively saying. That, yeah,
Right.
Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, please.
Because I mean, there was potential for that.
They were just
And-
audible like, no. No, and then you get to the motorway. No,
No,
it's
no,
not.
no,
And then you
you
see
get to the-
Midgar, you're like, oh Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
actually
and you
is.
just
you
you
see
just
the
see it. You see
soldiers,
the people. Yeah,
And then we
just-
see Barrett's arm come in on frame left, and it's like just eruption.
and it's
Just
more
a true-
beautiful than Advent Children. It's
Oh my God.
gorgeous.
Well, it should be.
It should be. We would
it's
hope
about,
so.
Advent Children's about 10 years old, so it's...
Right.
Granted, guys, it's pre-rendered. I know we're all going to jump
Yeah.
on the hype train. Choo choo. I'm all there with it. I'm at the front.
I'm all over the
Yeah.
You're the conductor.
I'm at the front.
True.
I'll put on
At the
the
very least, you're shoveling coal.
I'll put on the hat. I don't care. But
No.
yeah, pre-rendered. We just got to remember that. It's
That's
going to look
true.
great. It's going to look great.
And part of me,
Yeah.
and the other thing about it is, we're gonna be waiting a really long fucking time for this game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll find out more in winter, so I'd say probably at best Tokyo Game Show.
Tokyo Game Show. Yeah.
At best. It'd probably be
maybe
in Square's
PlayStation-
best interest to hold a small event like
Right.
in November.
The other
Not
thing,
November.
the other event I can think of where they show more is the PlayStation Experience. If they
Yeah.
do that again,
Sure, if they do it again,
That's
yeah,
actually-
absolutely.
which I think is a definite
Which
possibility.
would be a fun return to a year later coming back to the same venue where Shinji Hashimoto famously gave us half of what we were looking for, a Final Fantasy VII port.
Yeah.
And now, of course, it was probably in the works all along, which is just crazy to
He
think
knew.
about.
He knew.
Yeah,
Totally
that's small.
knew.
You
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
The
knew.
glint
But it's like you got to
in his
remember
eye.
that we have all these shows now every year, so Sony do have to keep things relatively close to their chest. So, yeah, PlayStation Experience, I would expect it. Sony Ben's game, I would also expect that. Finally, it's been
Yeah.
it's been in the pipeline for
Yeah.
far too long.
Yeah.
I think the earliest, the very, very earliest we could see this game coming out would be
It's late next year. It's very late next year.
as the absolute earliest moment. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to go even
No,
later. I was
yeah,
going to say
that's the
summer.
earliest.
2017.
2017 seems more
Yeah.
plausible
It
for
seems
sure.
more, yeah, it seems more likely. It could very well
Something
be
of-
26. It could be very
no
well be
idea where-
2016.
when
though.
it could have even
Yeah.
started.
I don't see any reason why they would release it 2016 though, with all the other titles that they
Oh,
have
yeah,
coming out
it's-
next year.
right.
There's
Yeah,
no
no,
reason
there is
for
a
them
lot,
to do
there is
that,
a
and
lot.
with all the other blockbusters hitting,
Oh,
it would
for
make
sure.
more
You
sense
know,
for it to come
just
out later.
everything.
But
And
it's
you-
going to
and you-
sell like
and you
crazy no
gotta
matter
think
when
that,
it comes
you know,
out. Is the other thing.
It's just a matter of you don't want it to you
oversaturate the market,
And also,
stuff,
you have
and
some of the same staff.
You want your other games to do well too.
You don't want
The
to,
same-
you kind of,
right.
yeah, because it'll take everything away from
Yeah.
anything they release.
You've got some of the same staff, notably Nomura, who
Nomura's
are
already
also
already a little overworked. If
He
you
is.
ask me, between Kingdom Hearts 3 and FF15.
Yeah, he stepped a little bit away from FF15, but you know he's still got his hand in there. And then Kingdom Hearts 3, obviously. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a game that we don't see until.
And you think about the
release
scale
until
of that.
3
I
years
mean,
out.
something that looks, even if the stuff we were seeing in that trailer
Yeah.
is, of course, that look is only going to probably
Right.
be cutscenes. But regardless, the blowout of visuals throughout the entire game applied to the open world of exploration. The fact that these old PS1 RPGs are really, really, really freaking big with so many locations. Even the smallest, most insignificant cave in PS1 FF7 is going to present a huge development challenge. And we already know that. That's part of
Yeah.
the reason why they said they apparently never really wanted to do it, because it would be that kind of a
It will be interesting.
colossal
right,
undertaking.
and we have to wonder what kind of gameplay or visual changes they're going to do.
Right.
You know, with
That's what I
camera
was
angles
going
and
to
whatnot.
ask. Is how
Even-
you guys think
yeah.
it's going to play?
Like
Yeah.
modern design aspects,
I
even
we
like
don't know.
navigating
We
the
don't
world
know.
map
Right.
and stuff.
Yep.
It's
Well,
gonna
we
be-
don't know. I'm just curious what you guys think. How
At a-
it is
at a
going to play.
fundamental level,
If
I
it's going to
think-
be like a Crisis Core but open world kind of style game.
Oh
or is
no
it
no
gonna
no!
be-
I think for sure turn-based RPG system.
Right, well, excuse me on
think,
that. I
yeah.
mean turn-based fighting, but in terms of running around and exploration, would it be kind of Crisis Core / Final Fantasy 13 kind of movement and running around?
I think
Where it's
likely
to
we'll
scale.
Yeah.
likely we'll
Yeah.
see,
and then like how would the airships be implemented
right.
then too?
I think
So, like,
likely
another
we'll
thing is
see
to think about.
them allow you to control the camera.
Right.
Using the right analog.
I mean, they easily could. I mean, if you think about it too, it was just like it could be kind of very much Final Fantasy X like.
yeah.
It could be exceedingly
And
Final Fantasy X like.
I was
One
gonna
of my favorite
say-
games. I can't necessarily.
I was gonna say
Right.
if the
I mean,
Final
But
Fantasy
it's
VII,
its own game. We'll
Yeah.
see.
if the Final Fantasy VII remake even looks just like the level of quality as the Final Fantasy X remaster,
it easily could, given what else we saw at the show.
I would be satisfied because then that's like, okay, this is playable to people who are maybe impartial to how the original looked.
Who are just coming in
Yeah.
maybe for the first time in
Yeah.
the series.
What I would love to see in that too, and I was talking to Adam about this earlier, was very small things that would be awesome to make the world come alive. Is that you see at the very beginning of the trailers, or not the beginning, towards the middle, is this very crowded, dense city population where it's just people walking around. They're walking through the streets, and you'd see that's what I want to be able to do is explore Midgard. And just be able to walk around and like see the shops and the workers, people like he'll just be walking through these kind of ruined areas, kind of neighborhoods, and you see some shopkeepers, like somebody working on the side, and he's like walks up to them and asks them for help from a request or something, and they're just kind of yell at him, be like, "Can't you see I'm busy? Go ask someone else" or something. These like little flippant things or tiny things that mean absolutely nothing in terms of
But make the world
character,
feel
but they
more
mean
real.
everything in
Yeah.
terms of making
Yeah.
the world come
Yeah.
to life.
Yeah,
So
you
it
got a
would
good
just be-
point there where I think, now that I think, where do my preferences lie in terms of the form this game takes, I think I actually am a fan of, like, flipping the table on some of the things we expect and not being like, alright, you're going to retread the exact same steps you did in the PS1 version, you're going to do all those things. Maybe no. Maybe I would rather have a blowout the city of Midgar. You hit the same story beats, like you get funneled toward meeting
course,
Aerith
yeah.
in the church, you get funneled toward your sector being blown up by Shinra. Those kind of things also happen with interesting beats in between, because that kind of flexibility would allow Square to take sections of the game that maybe just in the grand scheme of things aren't as important to the remake, or the acquisition of characters
I
like
can see things changing.
Right,
Yeah.
and that would
I think they have confidence to take liberty to change things.
that would make
think-
add an element of surprise. I think. I mean,
yeah,
we've
right.
seen in film remakes that have done really well, where they don't tread the same path, like the Jackie Chan, Jaden Smith Karate Kid, which is actually pretty good.
It was
It's
alright.
pretty good.
I'll admit, I
It's
did
pretty
enjoy
good.
that.
And then on the anime side, they have the Evangelion remakes that they're doing, and those switch things up a little bit here and there, drastically later on. But at least for like the first two, I think that are following kind of closely, but changing things here and there. It just adds another surprise, and it almost like rewards fans of the original, because when they see the changes, they're like, "Oh, what?" You know.
Do you think?
Oh,
do you think it will conform to modern design sensibilities? Like, will you have that option? Like, it seems kind of. It's not even archaic. It doesn't seem to have the proper optional characters. We've got Vincent,
Like with Vincent,
Yuffie. Would they even?
Well, that's I mean, that's one place where the opportunity to, as long as they're doing the remake, let's revisit some of our late '90s design sensibilities and decide, is this midsection of the game that's totally optional worth it to keep? Can we implement Yuffie and Vincent in other necessary parts of the game? Like maybe you meet them in a slightly different way. They incorporate into the party in a way that's streamlined, so we can get through the middle section faster and on with
Because
the
I'm
good
trying to
stuff.
remember, even the way you get Yuffie is kind of just it's a little ham-fisted in
then
itself.
maybe
Like, you just find her in a
on the
forest to kind of keep going.
Because you can completely miss her, can't you?
Yeah,
you can
Vincent.
skip
Yeah,
over.
you
Yeah,
can
Vincent,
skip over
you
both
can.
of them.
Which is a shame because Vincent's amazing.
I agree. Like a
But-
new way to introduce those characters, and then also tell some of their backstory, make it more interesting.
I mean, I think it's a good what if scenario. I think if we think of FF7 as a game with a true legacy, like one of the 10 or 20 games in game history that have that legacy, the remake kind of presents an interesting what if scenario. What if we actually incorporate them into the story as a necessary element in a slightly different town or a slightly different manner. And it's kind of Square's chance to be like, what if we had done it this way in the original game? How does that feel? How does that play out? And I really have no problem with that. I'm actually totally okay with those
I'd be
kind
on
of
board
changes.
with that.
How would you guys feel about this? Is just a thing, considering how much more they can do with making the world come to life more and be able to kind of stretch out a little bit some of the dialogue and not make it so expedient in terms of things and a lot of different acting and stuff. What would you think about, since they originally came out on multiple discs, if they actually released it as multiple games? If they did a section to actually really flesh it out and to stretch it and to give that time, because they can't really do that, a lot of the things that we would want, unless they spend another 3 or 4 years probably
It's true,
to get to that point, because of how long the game is already.
Yeah, scale to
get
scale.
to it.
If they were to translate it directly, it would
take forever
It's a
to do
lot.
that. It would be another like 10
That
years.
RPG with that open world, not
If
only
you
the
did
open
that,
world, but
yeah.
then the density of the smaller towns and the interior spaces.
And then if you did almost
So
like
all the
a-
details
even
they
the
have to work
different,
on,
even
yeah.
the different gameplay mechanics where you're driving or you're like or you're snowboarding,
and even if you
know,
did like the just like scenes like
That game
a metal,
is long
like
and very.
it's very long.
but if you wanted to add scenes
Yeah.
like dialogue scenes like from Uncharted or something in that kind of caliber to each dialogue section that happens in the game, there are so many dialogue sections in the game. You either have to cut so many of them to be able to expedite the process, or you'd have to make time to be able to do that by either taking a break or
right.
just not releasing it.
I think personally, I wouldn't have a problem with that because it would mean we'd get to play the game sooner for one thing, and that's a
Right.
huge portion. Even if they were to just release like the beginning of the game through escaping Midgar, which is a decent chunk of the game. I mean, you can burn through it in 5-6 hours, whatever. But depending on how they shift the story to meet this new remake, you could turn that into a really substantial chunk of game, 10-20 hours, especially if Midgar is blown up to be a fully explorable thing. So, maybe it becomes a thing where every 2-ish years we get another massive episode of the true Final Fantasy VII experience.
That would be
And
awesome.
prolongs what we love about it.
Exactly, and it would make sense so we could get play it earlier, and then also because so many of the fans who are going to buy this are older now, and they their lives are busier, so they can just take it with this an episodic
They could
format.
also potentially provide them with more of the feedback they would want on the title, since they're clearly making this off of fan demand. They'd have opportunity to adjust to fan
exactly.
requests after it, because if you did an episodic kind of version, there's almost certainly going to be things that people aren't going to like, unless they are just phenomenally on ball to like an unrealistic level, which they could
Which
be.
isn't the Square we know.
but
You've
it's-
got to
it's
be
surpri-
mindful. This is literally a lot of people's first RPG.
Yeah.
Like somehow. Well,
Yeah.
it's actually So there's
It's a lot of people's first Final Fantasy too, even.
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot of they got to tread carefully, but they also have to have
Yeah.
the confidence, of course, to realize it for modern day. It's a difficult one because it's not a traditional RPG. There is so many different small little game-based snippets and elements that are just non-conventional, and design choices that are non-conventional. And you change too much, you're gonna get a rise out of people.
And if you lose too much, if you get rid of too much, then you start to lose a little bit of the identity.
You see, the question I had posed to you guys, even yesterday, before we even knew, we had obviously, there was little rumors and stuff we were hearing about it, maybe making an appearance, but do we have the confidence in current day Square Enix to actually do the game justice? But then again, I think
With the roster that showed.
I think seeing the roster, that kind of quelled the, my
The
trepidation about what, it's, I think
they have the ability to do it. Whether or not they do is a different thing.
I think they've
So-
probably sat on it for long enough, and they've thought about, what way they're going at it, like in pre-production. They probably had the longest pre-production of most games. Knowing the legacy and knowing that they can't.
You've got the staff there. A lot of them, who worked on the original. There's the pedigree there, and like you said, I don't think they would announce this until they were like really sure that they were going to work on this. I think the Square
because we saw how well that went for them in 2006.
exactly, and I think present day Square is being a lot more receptive to fan feedback. We finally got Final Fantasy Type 0 over in the West. With the HD remaster. and then while working on Final Fantasy 15, they actively looked at what people were saying about the demo, released a patch, and are tweaking elements of the game based on what people are saying. And that's something that we hadn't seen.
It's unprecedented in the game industry to patch a demo with that large of a content update, let alone coming from Square.
Yep.
So,
And I think that
really
they're
impressive.
realizing and getting back to their, to their core essence. It's not Sony related, but Bravely Default I think was also the part of their wake up call, where that was a very traditional JRPG, sold really well, and they realized, hey, there's still a market for this. People still really like these type of games, and we can create these games and still find success with those.
And apparently people still like Shenmue, and they want to see
Who'd have
more
thought
of
it?
Shenmue. So the thing about Shenmue is like, man, it was so impossible to not get caught up in the infectious energy of everyone there on the show floor who wanted to see that game. And that was like the true pipe dream, where it was like, we were talking in the hours leading up to the conference, like, maybe we'll see The Last Guardian. That's, we're pretty strong on that one, right?
I'd say that was
No way do we see Final Fantasy
confident.
VII and
Right.
The Last Guardian. And Shenmue 3 wasn't even really in the conversation except in fleeting tones of the Holy Trinity. And now we have that. So I personally can't say a lot about Shenmue. That's not something that I've ever really engaged with and known about beyond the fact that people seem to really like it. And it was kind of a cult classic. But
Yeah.
It's comparable to Final Fantasy VII in the sense that it has a lot of design choices that will be very interesting to see how they translate into modern day consoles. And a lot,
Talking Red Dog.
of course, Shenmue
Yeah.
was like I only played the first one, but Shenmue was a lot of like firsts for the industry. And what they did it proficiently. I can't say the word. So it will be interesting to see, because since then, people have taken those standards and they've made them their own and made them better.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see how they pretty much reappropriate that once again. And I don't know, like, we can even mention the goal of the Kickstarter, the amount of money. It's interesting. I don't know.
2 million. Well, 2 million is an interesting mark, right? Because
But of course, they're going to have investment.
yeah,
Prior to that, they will have a certain amount of money. But then again,
And
it's still
I
hard
don't-
to even gauge what that would be.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Is that I don't think it's going to be fully funded with this $2 million.
No,
absolutely not. Absolutely
I
not.
do think that Sony likely is
the one
putting it.
live update
Surprise.
1.7 million
Yeah.
has
At the time.
1.727 million.
It's going to reach it within 12 hours.
Yeah, what's it been? It's been 7 hours since.
Yeah.
it
It's
launched.
gonna-
So
it's
pretty
gonna-
much within 10 hours of it actually being live, it's going to break its
It's
goal.
$2 million
Its goal.
mark.
Yeah.
We're thinking it could even break 8 or 10 million. I think.
By when all's said and done, yeah, certainly.
It's got 31 days still.
But yeah, I definitely think Sony is putting some money there.
They'd be silly not
why
to.
right, and why else would this game be a PS4 exclusive?
Yeah, right.
And I mean,
that's-
there's still a huge install base for Xbox One. So if Sony wasn't putting money, why wouldn't they put it there? We've seen it with games like Street Fighter V, where the reason why that is, a PS4 and PC exclusive, at least on console, it's PS4 exclusive, is because Sony is co-financing it.
Right, so I could see Sony being one of the people with capital here, waiting on the success of the Kickstarter to see how much do we want to give you guys.
Yeah,
and
and they
I
might
think
have an
to some
agreement where
extent-
we'll say we'll match X%
Yeah, exactly.
of what you raise on Kickstarter.
And do you think Sega might be doing the same thing? In the back wings.
We don't know. Yeah, we don't know what Sega's up to.
I have a
with
feeling it's a very complicated deal.
Right.
Involving a lot of parties, a lot of vested interest
lot
in
of
this
moving
game.
And that's why it was really.
Yeah.
I thought it was really surprising that there's this independent feel to the Kickstarter, and not much.
Isn't it
not,
kind of
not much
genuine?
mention.
Yeah, I would say
yeah.
compared to Bloodstained, that Kickstarter campaign was a freaking production. You look through like the tier rewards in that, and the social media unlocks, the friggin' achievements
I was so glad
that
I
are
got
housed
to,
within.
it got to the very end stretch goal. I was so
Oh
glad.
yeah,
That boss-
absolutely.
yeah.
But yeah,
Boss revenge,
Igarashi's Bloodstained was just this incredibly well produced campaign, whereas Shenmue 3 is comparatively basic. It's very honest, very frank.
But
Here's
also-
what you're gonna get with the game.
I know, but even in the sense of the actual game, it's odd to see that kind of game of its traditional scope even being on Kickstarter. It's not like it's not like a 2D, say, side-scrolling thing. It's an open world, quite a and it's not massive. It's it's a big game for a Kickstarter.
It is a big game because it is the game that really pioneered that.
It's
open
an incredibly
world.
important game. It's not
Right.
It's
It was
not
a
a
landmark
spiritual.
game.
Yeah, it's not a spiritual successor. Which again, you can. It doesn't really matter. A game is a game if it's like Bloodstained may as well be a Castlevania game. It is a Castlevania game people have been waiting for, and justly so. It's going to be amazing. But this is literally Shenmue 3.
Yeah,
The
this is
iconic Shenmue
continuing
3 that people have been
story.
waiting for 13, 14 years.
14 years.
And you know, it's kind of the genius of Sony showing it at the conference and framing it. And it's always this way, no matter what conference you're watching, what game's being shown. The mere presence of it at your show frames Shenmue 3 as a victory for your company. Whether whatever the numbers behind that are, the amount of money that is or isn't being matched with Sony towards Shenmue, we are all kind of thinking of Shenmue 3 as a Sony game now. Whether that's earned or not, that's what we're given.
And it's good for them because they have the
huge
press
framage.
as well. So
and it conveys goodwill on their part.
Absolutely.
That we're gonna, probably are putting money towards it and are featuring it, on the world stage.
Which isn't to say, that the exclusives that filled their show were not, plenty in quantity and quality. I mean, God, we finally got to see what Guerrilla Games is up to. We finally got to see what Media Molecule is up to, and those are really on two very different sides of the spectrum. I mean, I'll say up front. So just to touch on Media Molecule's Dreams, right? What a cool idea! What a freaking awesome, creative, unique, totally Media Molecule idea.
Yeah.
That said, that glowing praise put in there, I don't think I am the creator that they're looking for that game. I think a lot of the enjoyment I would get out of the experience is surfing other people's dreams, viewing their dreams, kind of discovering those surreal landscapes more so than actually creating things and modeling them and animating them. But it kind of continues this Media Molecules tradition and even amps it up to 11 that Media Molecules just doing things that we don't see coming, and they're doing things that have never even been approached in the industry before, let alone done before.
They're inventing things that we don't know that we want yet.
Sure,
and
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that Sony is giving them that creative freedom. That they're not pigeonholing them as, hey, you're only going to make the Little Big Planet games. That's what you do now. That they let them go off and explore and do Tearaway, which I really like that game. And then now Dreams, which will be really interesting to see how that comes out. I'm on the same boat with you where I don't think I'm going to be this super creative type who's going to create elaborate dreams and whatnot, but I'm super excited to experience the levels or experiences that people create using that game. Yeah.
At the risk of sounding like a broken record, I'm exactly the same. I appreciate the level of creativity and genius that can be put into a game like that, and I will certainly play it. But yeah, in terms of actually creating,
Media Molecules is going, what have we done? We picked the wrong idea. No, that's not what we're saying at all.
No,
It's
exactly.
incredibly powerful, and I know just from the existence of the Little Big Planet community that those creative types are out there hungry for these experiences.
like I had Little Big Planet 1 and 2, and while I didn't make a level, I don't think in either, I played hundreds of levels and enjoyed them immensely. So
The only one you needed to find was the Seinfeld trivia level, falling through ABC.
that's amazing. I didn't even know it existed. I was just going through the Silent Hill levels and the Resident Evil levels and stuff. But yeah, as long as there's people there who are willing to create, and we have seen games like Minecraft, there's creators out there for anything. So I think there's always going to be people to make levels for us to play, and I will happily play them, and I will enjoy the game because I appreciate it on so many different levels.
And I think Dreams is also touching into a territory that hasn't really been reached so far by a lot of other games. Like Minecraft has done it a little bit, but in terms of actually adventuring into a different industry, they could move it towards academia and actually use it as a sculpture teaching tool and being a creative method for film design or for just design in general or creative processes. And a lot of different art schools and film schools are popular in this area, clearly. And it's something that they really could just break through immensely through that, because it looks exactly like claymation, and the animation is modeled after puppeteering, and those are two iconic forms of medium that are put in a technological setting and just could revolutionize that whole industry in a certain way.
So we'll probably see Dreams Machinima
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
And man, was there, God, one of the cutest moments of the show had to be those two polar bears in the Dreams preview. Kind of slid up, you had the little baby.
You knew the baby would
baby bear
nosedive into.
Oh, goodness,
Yep.
goodness. Oh, those cute polar bears. I mean, it's funny because we knew going into the show that this would be the year that, finally, a year and a half into PlayStation 4's existence, we were going to start to see what these guys have been up to, right? So here's Media Molecule's answer to that question. Guerrilla's answer to that question was Horizon Zero Dawn. And
What an answer.
What an answer. The problem is it's going to get overshadowed by,
God.
the announcement of the other 3 games, but it looked incredible.
Yeah.
I was saying this earlier.
It's
I think you take away the novelty of a Final Fantasy VII remake and just say, okay, compare, take that off and just let's look at the games as if it were a traditional E3 press conference. And I'm like, Horizon is it, man. Horizon is my game of that show.
Yeah.
It just
It's
impossible.
It's Enslaved meets Witcher. It's great.
Yeah.
Dragon
Whoa!
Age.
Whoa! Goodness!
There
All
it
right,
is.
I
It's
can
a
review
review
bylines written already. I can take that.
And they have like a concrete example because they showed gameplay, and this is how it's going to be. Rather than the Holy Trinity, we got basically just announcements.
Yeah, but what announcements they
But
were.
what announcements?
We've
Yeah.
been waiting for those announcements.
But just seeing those games in motion and seeing how just out of left field compared to the Killzone games, those was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Were we given a
it was
name for
just-
the main character? I actually really liked her. I think
Yeah, she
it was
was
a really
really good.
interesting game, yeah.
I
don't
didn't
think
hear
we
what
were
it
given a
was.
name. No,
No, it was just. She
But
was,
yeah, she had a lot of personality, a lot
Yeah.
of the kind of that independence, the hunting, the scavenging. Speaking of atmosphere and world building, that was just a really cool element of to even start with the kind of ruined cities, the world going dark, and we don't know why.
Yeah.
And I'm crossing my fingers, truly hoping beyond hope that we do find out why by the end of that game, and that's going to be what nails the narrative for me, right? If we actually
Right.
can peel back the layers of
that'll-
the mystery of the world and
that'll
start to...
help.
I feel like you'll get a hint
Yeah, you're right.
at the end.
That'll
And that's
help.
because it's a
Yeah.
new franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Or
feel
they'll
like
tell you, and it's not going to be a satisfactory answer to what you want. So it'll lead into something else that you have to play.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, that'll
So-
help drive the narrative because that's the big mystery in it.
Yeah.
And I hope that they don't just push that aside and say like, "Yep, that's just how it is," and then maybe give like really vague hints. That would be kind of disappointing.
It's funny how we're talking about an epic third-person action adventure that has just been revealed after years of speculation, and we're saying, yeah, that story is just the missing link there, because it really is. We know that the game looks awesome. We know that
Horizon?
Horizon, yeah, it seems to
Story
play
does not
awesome.
seem missing to me at all.
No, that's what we're saying, right? That it's not like we don't know that. That's the
I don't
element.
think
right?
you're saying that
Like
what
the
you're saying
promise
is
of-
missing.
Yeah, like it's the promise of that story that we don't know if it's going to manifest in the game and really become.
Oh,
I
I don't
want
think
to
it
be.
is missing at all. That's what I'm saying. The story, there's enough story there in that trailer.
Right, but like the game itself, like as a
Well,
campaign,
right, that
as
we
an
haven't seen
experience.
it, but it's. I mean, there's enough material there that it's
building
almost.
blocks are there,
They
you know.
almost can't
Yeah.
screw that up, given how just. It's a very simple premise, but they have such a setup to it, and such unanswered questions that they have to answer throughout that game, that it's almost impossible to. From what I've seen of that, anyway, that they could really leave you disappointed with that. But they can easily do it. But
Right.
also, given Guerrilla's track record, I don't see how they could fail at that.
I mean, when you talk about Guerrilla's track record, you have to talk about the polish of the gameplay, the smoothness of the gameplay.
Right,
And all
yeah.
those things seem to be there in spades.
Yeah.
Which is really shocking to think about when Guerrilla as a studio has been building up, to our limited knowledge as a first person talent house, and all of a sudden here we are with all of the conventions and even some new interesting twists on third person gameplay that
I just want that
are
weight,
absolutely nailed.
that weight and meat of the Killzone gameplay. I want that to kind of in the movements and feeling of the
Right.
protagonist in Horizon. I think that would be.
And it looked
looked
like
like
it
that
was
as
there,
well,
but
yeah.
it's hard
Okay.
to tell. Yeah.
What does it take for a game to put Killzone Shadowfall to shame in the visual department? Because that's really what Guerrilla was doing here. I mean, you think back to like Killzone
Phenomenal.
Forest, and as amazing as the game's outdoor environments looked, just the brush moving under her feet, crawling under those ferns, the robot character design, the
Just
enemy
even,
design
even just the
itself,
color of the world was.
Yeah.
it was
was
so
beautiful.
vibrant.
Yeah.
So I hope more people talk about that because, of
Sure,
course,
they
you know,
have to.
It risked
there,
being
it's
overshadowed.
it
yes.
did. Like that could have stolen
which
the
is
show,
ridiculous. Yeah,
It just shows the caliber of what was shown.
right.
And,
To say that was overshadowed is if somebody had just shown that by itself.
Yeah.
Some other day, like, just no
Right,
show,
right.
yeah.
Any other press conference, you'd be
Yeah.
like, wow, this is the game to look
Yeah,
out for. Yep.
it was just unbelievable.
And even crazier to think that if you were to ask me to put that up against Uncharted 4 as maybe not most anticipated, because I think I'm more anticipated for Uncharted 4 simply because that series has the pedigree that I know what we're going to get, and it's at such a high level of quality. But, like, as far as games shown during the presser, I really do think Horizon had it for me.
Yep, I'd pick Horizon over Uncharted 4 if I had to.
But, I mean,
I
let's
love
talk
the
about
series.
that Uncharted 4 demo, though. I mean...
It was great.
It's
It
beautiful.
was
Yeah,
great.
it was fantastic.
It was exactly what you
Beautiful.
expect. You know, it's a lot of destruction, a lot of kind of falling around the place and like getting out of things by like the skin of your teeth, and I like the kind of branching paths and the chase sequence and stuff. It was great. It was exactly what you would expect it to be. It's at that level of polish and sheen that you know.
Yeah. Still's got that great dialogue banter between
Yeah.
Yep.
you know,
My man
Drake
Sully,
and
yeah,
Sully.
yeah.
Oh man.
Well, I mean, what more can you ask for when the trailer opens up?
I want a
Just
young
Sully standing there.
Yeah, obviously this is going to be the end of Nathan Drake's story. I want a Sully story from the '60s or something.
Yeah.
Would you just call it Charted? You know, like the future tense.
Sully,
Sully.
Sully, get
Sully.
busy. There we go.
Sully in the 60s.
That's all I want. That's all I want.
Oh
Yeah.
Get a
Yeah, no,
Kickstarter for that. I'll do that.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I think the big takeaway from the demo for me was just the size of that world, the vastness of that city, and you know
Which
how
I
much.
feel it was deceptive, though.
Sure,
it
yeah,
looked
how much
impressive.
of
It
it
looked
is-
extremely impressive, but then there are those car chase scenes that appear in the past games, but they're only playable when you're in the car. They're only areas you can actually be
Yeah.
in the car, and the car can only go in the certain areas that it wants
Yeah.
you to go. So it's one of those
that's-
things.
that's fine, man.
It's
Yeah,
amazing to
that's
see.
the kind of
it's not-
style, though.
Yeah,
I feel
no,
like.
I'm not complaining about
Yeah.
it, but it's just it gave off it for something that is that. It did give the impression of being you could do whatever you wanted, but there was an imminent threat that led you to like, no, I have to deal with this now, so I can't. And like
Yeah.
they're really good at crafting those types of environments,
Yeah.
and that's it. It's not a negative to it at all, but that was one of the things too. Is just that after having gone through 3 Uncharted games and I don't really count Golden Abyss as an Uncharted game too much. It was enjoyable. It was fine, but it wasn't a Naughty Dog Uncharted.
By numbers, Uncharted, I guess.
Yeah, but it was.
As
I was
weird as
actually
that
kind
phrase
of.
sounds, but you're right. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, by the numbers on Charted.
I was just kind of a little burnt out by the series at this point, and my energy was not as high as it used to be. And then when that trailer came on and started going and seeing how good it was in the fighting, and I just started reliving all of those moments in my head from the other games, and I really just wanted to jump in.
It's going to be a wild, wild
We
ride.
need Elena to show up in the next trailer. What's going on with Elena?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
But
I actually almost thought it was her in that like teaser at the end, or not with that, but the montage that happened before.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
remember that game. It was a horror game
oh,
that showed up. There was just a blonde woman. At first, I was like, Elena.
Until Dawn, yeah.
Until Dawn.
Elena in a
I
towel.
was like,
What
no,
bizarre.
At first, I
world
thought it was
stepped
her,
into.
and then I was like, oh no, that's not her at all. And I was like,
Right,
okay,
right.
because we were still waiting for Uncharted to show up at that point, and I was just like,
I mean, I think it's going to nail what Uncharted is really, really good, for me, at least, is just a really entertaining story, and then these very likable characters.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, whether the story goes a little bit darker or not, like they've kind of hinted that we might be going for a slightly more, not mature take on Nathan Drake, but he's going to be, this is his finale, so he's going to be dealing with some of these problems that have a finality to them, right? Like deep, possibly
personal demons that he can't avoid any longer.
exactly
Sure,
demons of his
yeah.
past, the threat of death, the threat of his family, this new character Sam being harmed or killed.
I found the like ending part of Uncharted 3 to get a little dark.
Oh yeah, certainly.
You know,
yeah,
like,
the red
yeah.
herring of Sully.
Yeah.
You know, to not say too much about
Right.
the ending, obviously,
But
but yeah, it did delve into that
It's
territory.
him with having that fear of loss. you
Yeah.
know? So I wonder if that will be kind of re-emphasized in
You know,
the new
just-
I would
Or even a
imagine so.
reality.
yeah, right.
We'll always probably wonder for the next year or so, at least, how much of the game was written before Amy Hennig left the company. But I think, regardless, the studio's pedigree, when you look at The Last of Us, when you look at the other stuff, really lends it to. We don't have to worry about
Right.
it, you know.
I mean,
when
you
it
can't
comes to
really
launch.
feel you don't feel nervous about it when the replacements for Amy Hennig were Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley. So it's
It's a good.
it's in
hands.
good
It
hands
is in
either
excellent
way.
hands,
It's not.
So I want to kind of bring all our thoughts together and get like a broad sense of the conference as a whole. But first, like, there was just so much shown, and we don't have anywhere near enough time to talk about every game. So like, I guess so. Will, you know, kind of starting with you, like, what are some other games or other announcements that came out in the show that we haven't talked about here? Those kind of, because we had what 17 games, 18 games,
No, we
20
had
by the
almost
end?
25.
Almost 25 games.
So
by
if
the
you're
end,
if you're
so-
counting just like some of the quick show indie ones that were kind of thrown in the montage, we would actually be probably closer to 30 if you counted the
Because
trailer.
I really
ones.
feel like the conference had something that resonated a little differently with everybody, which is a hallmark to how great it was. But
Yeah, they just really focused on the games. There was nothing like previous Sony showings
true,
that
yeah.
like went through pricing of like peripherals or went through
yeah,
Yep.
20 million. So you know whatever numbers. It was literally here's a game, trailer, clapping. Somebody else comes out.
Yeah.
New game, trailer, clapping.
Screaming.
Very
Screaming,
yeah.
hugging, embracing, crying, yeah, like that.
Yeah,
Very little fluff.
It was very matter of fact. There it
very
is.
little BS.
You know,
The only like moment was when they mentioned something about View and when that was launching.
Yeah,
but they spent
had
the
their-
appropriate amount of
Yes,
time where
yes.
people were like, "Oh, hey, that's cool."
That
Move
sounds
on
sick.
to the
Yeah.
games,
Yeah.
which is what
They
we're
had their
here for.
mandatory moment where Andrew House needed to come out and actually talk kind of specific tech, which needed to happen at some point. But yeah, it was just Spotify and PlayStation View, which actually PlayStation View sounded like it could be potentially an awesome deal.
yeah.
Yeah.
But,
No, yeah, it is
which
an
was, yeah, I
interesting
mean,
take
which
on
usually
gaming.
it's not, you don't have that kind of positive, universal positive reaction
Yeah.
from the people watching when they talk about that stuff. But
I was wondering what presence that would have because I saw it on some of those billboard trucks driving around the convention center. I was
Yeah.
like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah.
well, actually, one of the other thing that we didn't even touch on is that Black Ops 3 got partnered.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that
that-
can't be understated.
That Activision
That
is
and-
partnering with Sony, and now, for the first time in the history of Call of Duty, Sony has the first access to the maps and stuff that are coming
And also
out.
the multiplayer beta.
Yeah.
Multiplayer beta.
That
That's
and Disney Infinity, they're capturing really important
markets.
Really
In very
lucrative
different markets,
there. Very
extremely
different markets.
but
Yeah.
in very tactical ways. I mean, we talked about that Disney Infinity starter pack. You know, when families, when they go in to buy that for the holidays, and they see that there are toys in one single package, which as a shopper is just an easy prospect to get one thing that serves all your needs. Well, you can only get that on PlayStation. That is absolutely huge.
Especially the one
Yep.
that has Boba Fett. Yeah,
And then the kid will be going, I want that one.
Right. Oh
Right.
my goodness.
You know?
yeah.
And you can't say no to the kids.
There's one thing that I wouldn't say I'm disappointed about it. It was one thing that I was kind of surprised, but it's understandable, is that they didn't do a lot with Morpheus.
Oh yeah, no.
Which it
I'm
was
not
the same
even
boat.
thinking that
It was
Morpheus
like I'm not
yeah.
I'm not disappointed by that at all. What we only saw a little bit, but what we did
Yeah.
see was intriguing.
It was titillating.
We saw-
I was expecting
'Cause
them
we
to
said-
do it No
'cause-
Man's Sky, but
Yeah, that was something that was
really
I was with you
expecting
there. I was
that.
with you
I
on
was
that
really
one.
expecting that.
But for Riggs was the Gorilla
Gorilla Cambridge.
Gorilla Cambridge. That's the one.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's going to be a Morpheus title, which I don't think any of us knew that beforehand. We
We
just
had
knew
heard-
that we knew Riggs was going to be
We knew
coming.
there was a 3v3 arena shooter, but
Yeah,
not that it was
and then that
Morpheus.
seemed that actually looked like it'd be a lot of fun. I'm not sure how much playability it has if you don't have a core group of friends who get Morpheus
Yeah.
and have Riggs, but it looked like a fun thing to try out.
Yeah.
World of Final Fantasy that was coming out.
Oh
was-
yeah,
Yeah,
totally,
yeah.
totally passed over that.
That was another
really
thing
cute.
and it's coming out on Vita, which is one of
a rare
3
moment
or
of-
4 titles I think I noticed during the show that had on the
sounds
end
about
that
right.
said it was
Yeah.
coming to Vita, which were actually fairly prominent titles. But
Yeah.
yeah, but that could be huge. It's going to be huge in Japan, but
Oh, definitely.
for
yeah.
here that could actually increase the install base a little bit. But
Yeah.
You know, as far as Morpheus goes, I gotta say it was. You know,
With
looking back on the timing, maybe it wasn't the right time to really do the full blowout.
That's
that we
what
maybe
I think
expected
PlayStation
to see.
Experience really will be where it's...
PlayStation
That's right.
Experience.
Yeah, probably.
you know.
I think it was just something. Well, I think the
TGS or
problem
next
is,
E3.
I think we expected it because we didn't expect the other things.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
happen.
yeah, absolutely.
Because
correct,
we were
yeah.
like, what are they going to do with all that time?
Exactly. What are they
it was just
gonna
like they showed us what they did with all that time.
So yeah, I was
So
a
it was-
little bit expecting for a Morpheus release date, possible renaming, and then a price. But then we look at it, and it is still pretty early because they're
Yeah.
not launching until 2016.
How do you
the
attach
VR
a value to that? You know?
Yeah, the VR market is so young that we don't know. We don't have any bare metric on how much that consumers are willing to pay for this.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm sure in order to get that install base, Sony would be willing to take a little bit of a loss on
And
it.
for now, it seems like they're content to let Oculus decide what that value is. You know,
Yeah.
which is a fine approach. It's a fine approach. To
I mean,
not be the one to set
that's
that
what we
price.
see with Apple is that they a lot of times they aren't the first
Right.
with some technologies. They let other people take the leap, see what works, and then
Yeah.
you know
And there's
incorporate
that
that.
iterate
chance
on
on
it,
both
yeah.
sides. If you set it too high, no one's going to buy it. If you set it way lower, then Oculus comes out later with $1,000 compared to Sony's $300. Well, it's like wow, maybe
It's
it's actually
inferior.
yeah, exactly. It's inferior,
Yeah.
and Oculus understands how valuable this is and
Yeah.
whatnot. So
The other thing that I was a little bit surprised and I was thinking would show up would be possible price drop, at least for the 500.
oh yeah,
Or even
Gigabyte model?
showing a terabyte.
Yeah, and
model,
then,
like-
or yeah, at the very least, showing the 1 terabyte model to at least be on par or parity with the Xbox One pricing.
And we had some other third party titles, some big blockbusters that are certainly. God, it's. I hate to say it because those would be huge things in any other year, but this year, your glimpse at Arkham Knight, your Assassin's Creed Syndicate, even your Street Fighter V to some degree are like great
Hitman.
filler between
Yeah.
the Holy Trinity moments and the closing moments and the Horizon moments. Hitman, of course, as
Yeah.
well. So, if anything, it's an interesting setup to Square Enix's show tomorrow because there was a lot of Square Enix stuff in this trailer. You had Hitman, you had World of Final Fantasy, you had the Final Fantasy VII remake. So I can't help but wonder what we're going to see tomorrow as a remnant of those things, or if that was entirely just shifted off of Square's plate because they have so much to show.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they show more of that, even mention it at all. But there's other stuff that they can show: Final Fantasy 15, Kingdom Hearts 3, and then a lot of their Western Studios projects, such as like Deus Ex, Mankind Divided.
Goddamn.
Already
I said goddamn.
Already confirmed, voice actor Elias Tefexis has confirmed that he will hear his voice tomorrow morning. So
Sweet.
Well, I hope he does
All
hear
things
his
good.
voice
Yeah.
tomorrow morning.
I didn't ask for this.
I did ask for a sequel.
Pritchard.
But yeah, I think
Jensen. in the bathroom.
I would assume that they are showing. I don't know. They have to. I think they're going to show something else a little more on Final Fantasy VII tomorrow.
Think so?
If it
I don't know.
might be the same thing, but I feel like they want to show that
They want to play it
they-
again. Just
Well, I
just
think-
so they can
I'd be
spend 2
happy with
minutes.
that.
But
I'd
it's
be
all,
real
it,
happy
does,
with
it
that.
creates a strong for people who maybe are just seeing this earlier for the first time or not really sure about it is reestablishing that name with their company and making them have a bigger presence in the show overall.
I mean,
So I think
guess
that's
it
something
won't-
to reestablish in that kind of sense. They might
wouldn't
do
hurt.
something small and just to kind of maybe even an abridged version of the trailer that
Yeah.
we saw. It could be something like that.
It wouldn't hurt because it'll just re-emphasize and get the word out to people who maybe missed it.
Yeah, and
you know.
and it helps peace of mind for people like us too that they're really committed to it.
Yeah.
That they would take extra time out in their own show when they have time to present
Yeah,
on other things.
And we saw that with
So-
the Xbox conference this morning. That Todd Howard went back on stage
Yeah.
and said, like, "Hey,
Yeah.
we're still we love Fallout 4 and we're still working on it. Here's some more, a little
Here's
more."
mod support
But,
on
but
console,
yeah,
which
even-
will also come to PS4.
Even for
Yeah,
talking about just,
it's pretty likely to come.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
but even just talking about making second appearances during conferences, we saw EA earlier, but then Battlefront made another appearance
Yeah.
at Sony,
Oh
and
my
it got completely
God, how did I forget that
overshadowed.
Battlefront?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just imagine, just think about that.
Star Wars
From what
Battlefront.
we saw at EA was
Was
phenomenal, and it was just mind-blowing, and it was something that all of us, I think, felt like we were ready to buy as soon as we got out of there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then it made an appearance again. It was right before Uncharted, so it was one of the last things we should have remembered.
But it was like
But
lower half of like the conference things that really
Yep.
stand out in my head.
It was
Yeah.
in the lower,
That's just a testament to how, and like
Yeah.
we can't return to this point enough. It was incredible. I mean, I'm not, I'll sit here and I'll be the first one to make the statement that it's the best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It absolutely is, and that's not just Sony. That's
No.
the best
And they
E3
even
press
had-
conference I've ever seen.
even had Street Fighter V as a
Street Fighter V.
thing. It was
Jesus.
just something else. That's another huge
Yeah.
title for the fighting game community specifically,
Huge
and it's
deal.
console exclusive,
I
which
mean-
is also it was like one of 10 or so exclusives that they showed, which is even that number is just ridiculous.
And we got to remember too that we did get some pretty hefty announcements, even with Microsoft this morning. Backwards compatibility,
Which
can't
isn't
be
true
understated.
backwards compatibility if
Well,
you're honest with
It's
yourself.
select, yes.
Well, sure, but 100 titles by the end of this year alone—that's nothing to sniff at either.
No, it's
so
not.
It
But
shows
it's
more
but
than
it's
Sony's doing.
it's misguided in how it was presented. Which is what I take issue
I
with.
agree. I agree with that.
It's a
Because
cool
there's-
feature and it's worth noting, but it's should be clarified what it actually is.
And don't forget, we are getting DLNA support as well
At last.
for our PlayStation.
Oh,
that was
my
just
goodness.
swept just nicely under the carpet. Nobody really knew. So and
So
MKB
what-
files are playing as well. It's gonna be.
So, I mean, historically,
We
What is
still
it- what
can't
is it-
change our PlayStation names. Still can't.
Yeah.
minus 2 points, 8 out of 10. I mean,
Yeah.
Set down
No.
PS3 architecture. Something happened in the network back in the day. They can't fix it.
and
I don't know.
the best testament to the quality of the conference is being here, leaving the arena, and feeling an energy in the air that is just unparalleled.
Unmatched.
Between the,
Wow, it
the
was-
things people are talking about, the things people are excited about, there's really nothing like it.
Yeah.
And I think historically, what can you say about this one? I mean, this
Where do
is-
we go from here? That's
I don't know.
Like how
I
do
don't
you
know.
how do you?
I hope Sony knows because I have no
Because I mean,
idea.
every year we could say, well, they could show The Last Guardian. Well, maybe they might do a Final Fantasy remake.
Right.
Maybe they might do Shenmue. What do you say?
Yeah, he did all three.
Half-Life 3.
We have no more
Yeah.
things to
Half-Life-
whine about.
Half-Life
games.
3 Silent
Yeah,
Hill.
I don't think Valve could live it down if it even appeared on a console. So
Yeah.
And then to think we're going to show
Yeah.
up to Sony's booth tomorrow on the show floor and see like 50 indie games that weren't even in the show.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
Just unreal.
and they're all probably going to be very
Right.
good.
They had a lot to prove this year
Yeah.
because they have a severe lack of first-party exclusives for the
That's
holiday
true.
season.
That's the one caveat. We're not seeing a lot of this until 2016.
Like
But-
last year,
But I think
it was 2015
Yeah.
last year. You know, it's
So I think they had something to prove, and they did prove it. And by and large, this should keep a lot of people who are thinking about jumping to the new generation thinking PlayStation 4.
Is the way to
This
be.
gives them no
Yeah.
reason not to jump
Yeah,
and not to jump to PlayStation.
yeah.
At least it makes it extremely difficult to not do it.
And for every
Right.
person, for everyone from the RPG enthusiasts who've been holding out because there isn't a super promising RPG coming to PS4, everyone from them to the competitive console Call of Duty players, your Street Fighter players who are looking for that reason to choose a next-gen system. And the choice is clear. If you want the best experience in any of those games and multiple others, as well as those exclusives, there really is only one answer.
It's PlayStation 4.
PlayStation 4, son. Yeah. Get hyped. Get on
PSU
that train.
endorses PS4. Shocker! Hold on, stop the press.
wow. Wow.
I mean, that's the story. That's Sony. That's Sony at E3 2015. That's hashtag PlayStation.
I mean, it's been the
E3
first
for
time
you.
in a while that their AAA showing outshined their time for indie. The last
Yeah.
few years,
Yeah.
it's been
It
there was
is
a
an paradigm.
different focus, which is
encouraging. I was ready for that. I was ready for
Yeah.
AAA to
And they
not
needed this.
necessarily
They
just
needed it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and not even come back, but actually like prove its worth with some refreshing things, some refreshing settings and ideas. And I think everything from Horizon to Uncharted 4 did that in different ways. In ways that kind of
I think
mix up the formula.
The big thing is that they showed that AAA does not necessarily mean generic or more of the same. That it can be really creative and out there.
yeah, extremely special.
Yeah, with
And
stuff
we-
like Dreams. And
We still got the indie games coming.
we still
Everybody's gone to Rapture,
Yeah.
Witness, Rhyme. There's so many of them.
Which is it's crazy is that they didn't really they didn't lessen their focus on indie games. They just put more focus on AAA and kept that same huge focus on indie.
Yeah, like
which is an
Firewatch
yeah.
as well. Which
Firewatch looked
interesting.
fantastic.
No Man's Sky is, it's technically
Oh,
indie.
Yeah,
How do
That's
we
like-
get through without even mentioning No Man's Sky?
Right.
And the most humble, the most awesome presentation ever. Hello Games just continuing that charismatic,
Hey,
yeah,
check
that
this
honesty,
out.
that authenticity.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we know enough about No Man's Sky now, where it's like they probably don't want to share any more about the kind of things you do and what that looks like. At the end of the day, I'm okay with that. You know, I'm just
Yeah.
ready to play
No,
it.
yeah.
so
which is
get
kind of
on
funny
with it.
because no matter how much they share, it's likely that we'll never see it
yeah,
in the actual game.
yeah, true enough. Or it'll,
Yeah.
even on the basic features, maybe if they don't interest you, you do other things. So.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, we still have 3 days of E3 left, and now the actual show really starts with us getting into the booths and having our appointments, and at the very least, hopefully with some time spent with Sony, some time spent with Square Enix, EA, Ubisoft, we'll actually be able to bring you, the listeners and viewers, some more detailed impressions of these things and hands-on time with absolutely as much as we can. As much as we can get our hands on. So,
Yep.
I'm about ready to sign off these impressions. So, thank you everyone for joining in this this palpable excitement with us, for celebrating not just PlayStation but celebrating video games and celebrating what's already becoming the best E3 in recent memory.
Celebrating hope and believing.
Nothing is
Dreams
impossible.
don't die.
The impossible is
Just
possible.
do it.
So thank you guys. Thank you for listening. Please stay tuned to PSU all this week for the coverage we'll be bringing you. Our video diaries, impressions, our written coverage, our written previews, everything that we'll be doing to help bring the show floor to you, including everything from Vine to Snapchat to Twitter, as we try to bring you new experiences and get you a glimpse of that show floor action. So thank you. Awesome. All right. Take care, guys.
See you guys.